strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Welcome back, it is Bulldog here, and I am super hyped yet again because we have the stats for Conqueror Jacek. He is the next legendary airdrop summoner that is coming to Splinterlands. We have currently sold 9.5 million Chaos Packs. Once we hit 10 million sold, Conqueror Jacek will be airdropped to players who bought packs directly from Splinterlands. Every pack that was bought directly from Splinterlands, secondary market does not count, has to be bought directly from Splinterlands. Every pack bought will have a 1 in 575 chance of earning you this airdrop card. For every 575 packs you purchase, you are guaranteed to get one. You could get more depending on how RNG goes, but there are guaranteed thresholds for every 575 that you have bought. So let's jump in here. Let's go look at his stats. This is the new fire summoner, if you couldn't tell. Conqueror Jacek is going to get scattershot, piercing, and +2 speed. Sticking with the offensive theme for fire, Jacek looks like an absolute beast to me. So there's a lot to break down. Okay, so let's kind of break some of this down. How's he going to impact the game? Because I think he's going to have a major impact. So first off, +2 speed. Speed is king. We all know that, right? Unless you're in reverse speed, but generally speed is king, is very important. One of the reasons Kitty is one of the best summoners in the game is because of that +2 speed. Getting +2 speed alone is very big. So that's going, I mean, that's going to be huge in and of itself right there. But there's more. But wait, there's more. Piercing, we've seen piercing on a fire summoner before. Piercing allows range, well, allows, typically is for ranged and melee attack, but allows attacks to damage through armor. So normally if you hit 3 armor with 5 ranged attack, it just takes off that 3 armor and doesn't damage the health. Piercing allows that extra leftover damage to also go through and damage health. So that's going to be nice. And then scattershot. Scattershot is very interesting. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Scattershot only applies to melee, or sorry, only applies to magic and ranged attack. Melee is not impacted by scattershot, so that's important to know. It only impacts ranged and magic cards. And what it does is it allows cards that are attacking from the back line to randomly target a card. So it could be the front line card, it could be the back line card. It's going to be completely random. It does go around taunt, which is a big reason this is so game changing. The only thing it cannot hit is camouflage. So I do kind of wonder if camouflage cards might get a little boost in value from this, because that can potentially be a way to avoid these scatter shots is by using camo cards, but they can hit anything else. They ignore taunt, so they'll go right around that. And it does allow for a lot of randomness in battle, but I've previously kind of been against scattershot. I haven't been a huge fan. Those of who have watched my streams have certainly seen me use it in certain niche situations. But the big use for it and its big value is being able to go around the defense that your opponent sets up. A lot of times when you're designing your cards or your lineup and putting things in a certain order, you want to drive your opponent's attacks to a certain point, whether it's a card that can absorb a lot of damage or whether it's magic damage that's hitting reflect or return fire for range damage, whatever the case is. You kind of try to funnel your opponent's attacks to where you want them to go. The best example is taunt. That's the value of taunt. It makes everything attack that certain card, and then you can build up your defenses around that, whether it's putting heals or putting triage if you got the taunt in the back, whatever the case is. So scattershot is nice because you can go around that. But one of the problems with scattershot so far has been that there's not a lot of it. At max, you can put 3 scattershot cards, and that's if you're using dragon. There's 1 dragon, there's 1 neutral. Not every splinter even has a scattershot card, and there's not a lot of flexibility with it. There's 5 scattershot cards total. 3 of them are 5 mana, so you're very, if you want to use scattershot, you're very restricted on when and how you can use it and that type of thing. Jacek is going to give you the ability to put an entire line of five cards in the back that all have scattershot. So now you can go around that taunt or around your opponent's defenses that they've set up, however they've designed that, with much more volume, and you've got a lot more flexibility in how you can do it. You can do it with low mana, you can do it with high mana, and you're not funneled into trying to fit certain cards, and that would be something that I would struggle with sometimes when I'd be like, okay, this is a rule set or a situation where I fully expect to see a taunt here. So how do I go around that? Let's try to use scattershot, but how do we use that? How am I trying to? There's only a very select few scattershot cards, and trying to work those with that exact mana into the lineup was sometimes difficult. And this gives you a lot more versatility, a lot more volume, and again, you can do it with the speed and the piercing to get through any armor as well. So I think this is going to completely change the game. It's going to be much harder to throw up a taunt, something like that. You've got to, if you're worried about facing Jacek, you have to make sure your backline cards all have lots of health, so they can absorb some of those shots. And Jacek could be, we've definitely seen situations where using scattershot is harmful, and that could certainly be the case. This is going to, man, if you see some Jacek versus Jacek battles, that could be an RNG nightmare potentially, but you can certainly use that against the team if you've got enough health on your backline cards where they're not getting focus fire. So it just kind of changes the outlook on how we set up teams and what we're looking out for. So and I think it's going to change the value of a lot of cards. Let's go into one thing that I talked about quite a bit on several of my streams or videos as we were talking about the fire summoner that could come up. I had wondered if blast cards in fire were going to get a lot more valuable. I said that right now a lot of these cards are overlooked because Jotun's so popular, right? Jotun has blast. Blast is a very valuable ability. So that overlap between cards kind of reduced the value of using a card like Pyromaniac over here, because a lot of times if you were going with that strategy, you were just using Jotun, especially in higher leagues where everybody has Jotun. Now it's a little different down in bronze where you don't see Jotun too much, but now the ability to use blast, like I said this not really thinking scattershot would come, to be honest, but now that we see scattershot, I think I was understating the value that some of these blast cards can have, because using scattershot plus blast allows you to hit some of that backline. It's kind of like we've seen snipe plus blast being a great combo, right? Hit the middle of your opponent's lineup, and then you can do blast damage on both sides. Well, now with scattershot, you can have a lot of overlap in that damage. So you might not get focus fire, but because of that blast, you're hitting 2 or 3 cards at once, so you still end up damaging a lot of the same cards. And especially with that speed, put out some damage, it could be very nice. So I'm looking at some of these blast cards here. I mean, you've got Fire Elemental, who's a modern card, gets blast at level 1. Pyromancer here is a modern card that gets blast at level 1. Pyromaniac's another untamed. Those 3 I just mentioned are untamed cards. Doesn't get blast until higher leagues. Countess Sanash doesn't have the blast until diamonds. But some of these cards, Elemental Phoenix is a wild card that, oh my goodness, looks like a huge beneficiary of this. It's got flying, dodge, and decent speed. Well, now you're going to add +2 dodge. You're going to give it some scattershot to do some nice blast damage back there. And yeah, the piercing might not help it too much unless you're up against some void armor or something. We've never seen magic piercing before, I don't believe, but I'm assuming that will apply to void armor cards as well. But any of these ranged or magic cards with this blast, I feel like are going to be more valuable now when you can pair that with scattershot. Just like we've seen pairing scattershot with Jotun to be a very valuable technique and an efficient strategy. It's kind of going the opposite here. So I kind of like some of those cards. I feel like those cards with blast are going to get more value, or even if some of our tanks up front can even still have a lot of value just with the piercing. Like, imagine Rum now getting some extra speed. He gets dodged. He gets dodged a lot, right? So extra speed, adding the piercing onto that bloodlust, that could be nice. As I mentioned earlier, camo cards I feel like will become a little more valuable because they have the potential to they can dodge, not dodge, they cannot be targeted by scattershot. So I feel like those could possibly get a boost. And again, the taunt cards maybe won't be, if this becomes a card that's commonly played, and I think it will be, the taunts won't have as much value as they did before because that's a way to go around those. So very interesting. Almost in a way, I'm thinking about the two summoners we've seen for the two legendary airdrop summoners for Chaos, Grandmaster Wraith and Conqueror Jacek, and they almost counter each other in different ways a little bit. So Grandmaster Wraith with Shield Bearer has been an absolutely that's a huge combo. Shield Bearer with the Void Armor and then the Amplify, the extra armor is just a beast to get through. That is a taunting card that is an absolute beast under Grandmaster Wraith. Well, with Commander Jacek, you can now go around him, and you've got piercing to get through that extra armor that Grandmaster Wraith gives. But then on the other side, one of the dangers with using something like Conqueror Jacek could be a lot of return fire, a lot of reflect on the other side, especially if you use some of those blast cards and that type of thing. And Grandmaster Wraith has Amplify, so if you play the right lineup, I feel like you could get a nice Grandmaster Wraith team that could counter Conqueror Jacek. So, and I'll be interested to see how those two play against each other. And of course, as we add more legendary Chaos cards, that'll be an interesting dynamic to see. But I like this card a lot. Like this is going to be a fun card. It's going to be an infuriating card at times. Absolutely infuriating. Man, the randomness with scattershot can really be a little bit crazy, but it brings a lot of fun. It absolutely brings a lot of fun. So make sure you guys come check out my streams. Once he goes live, you know I'll be getting him. I bought enough packs that I will be guaranteed enough to max him out. So as soon as he gets here, I'll be combining those together, maxing him out. We'll be jumping on stream. We'll be playing some. I'll try to do some videos at different levels as well to take a look at him. But yeah, absolutely come by my streams. We'll try to use him as much as possible when he comes out, and that's gonna be a fun stream, at least as a viewer. I don't know about as a player, but when he first comes here, and I'll be spamming him, trying to just use him as much as possible just to get a look at him. And oh man, that's going to be an entertaining stream, absolutely entertaining stream. So everybody needs to go buy packs. We still have 500,000 that we need to sell. But at the rate we're going, it won't be too much longer. So this is exciting to see, and I think this is an absolute beast of a card. Plus the artwork and the lore is really cool as well. So make sure you guys go check out the lore. We have lore trivia in our Discords, in the official Splinterlands Discord. So don't miss that. Don't miss that as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I cannot wait to use this card. I hope you are as excited as I am.